So welcome into class. We will start by lying down on the back of the body. So rolling yourself all the way down, coming to lie on the back. And then let's bring the arms out to shoulder height, palms of the hands face up towards the sky, leaving the knees bent and bringing the feet flat to the floor, having the feet a comfortable distance away from the body, making sure that the spine feels long and aligned. And then starting with a little bit of movement this morning. So inhaling deeply down into the belly. And then as you exhale, allowing the knees to drop down to the right. So leaving the sides of the feet connected with the floor, soles of the feet gently lift off the floor, knees soften down towards the floor. So the left knee may or may not rest on the floor, but aiming to soften through the right leg, through the right knee, the right thigh, allowing the eyes to close here. And then gently inhaling, bringing the knees back up to center, lifting through the pelvis, peeling the spine off the floor. And then exhaling, softening the body down, aiming to lower one vertebra at a time, keeping that control through the abdominal region as we lower down. With your next exhalation, allowing the knees to drop down towards the left, turning the head to look out to the right. And again, checking in with the legs, seeing if you can soften, seeing if you can release the legs a little further. Often it's easy to hang on, to grip onto the lower leg, so the left leg on this side. We notice that it might be floating off the floor. So just check in and see if you can drop that leg down to the floor. And then gently inhaling, bringing the knees back up to center. Once more, let's lift, inhaling, lifting the pelvis up towards the sky, keeping the fronts of the legs engaged, the backs of the legs engaged. Exhaling, lowering down. Once more, inhaling deeply, and then exhaling, knees drop down to the first side, so down to the right, head turns to look out to the left. And then lifting the lower leg, so lifting the bottom leg out from underneath you, crossing it over the top leg, and then gently allowing that body weight to increase the stretch through the left side of the body. Feeling the breath flowing through the body. Seeing if you can release and soften a little further with each exhalation. And then gently releasing the legs. So unwrapping the legs, drawing the knees back up to center. Once more, pushing the feet firmly down into the floor, lifting through the pelvis, peeling the spine up off the floor. And exhaling, releasing yourself back down. Inhaling deeply. And exhaling, knees drop down to the left, head turns to look out to the right. And again, lifting the lower leg. So left leg this time lifts up and gently rests over the right leg. Observing any sensations in the body. Noticing where you feel this stretch. Continuing to send the breath into any tightness. And then gently unwrapping the legs, returning the knees back up to center. And then let's just take a moment to hug the knees into the chest, gently rocking from side to side. Leaving the knees in close to the chest, let's bring the arms back out to shoulder height, and then inhaling deeply as we exhale, engaging through the core, keeping that control through the core and dropping the knees down towards the right. Head turns to look out to the left. Noticing the different sensations in the body in this movement. Seeing if you can soften with your exhalation. And then gently inhaling, engaging the core, lifting the knees back up to center, and exhaling as we take the knees down to the left. Head turns to look out to the right. Softening here. Seeing if you can soften a little further through the shoulders, through the hips and the thighs, the ankles and the feet. Engaging through the core, inhaling, lifting up, and then once more to each side. So exhaling, keeping the control through the abdominal region as we take the knees back over to the right. Head turns to look out to the left. And this time, if you would like to, we can work to straighten through the legs, perhaps catching the legs with the arm, and then aiming to soften once more. Taking the awareness into the sensations, breathing into any tightness. And then gently bending through the knees, engaging the core, inhaling, lifting, and then exhaling, knees come down to the left, head turns to look out to the right. And again, if you would like to, if you did so on the previous side, working to straighten the legs, and perhaps catching the legs with the arm. Noticing any differences from one side to the other side. And continuing to breathe, to soften here. Gently bending through the knees, returning the legs back up to center. Let's hug the knees into the chest. And then crossing the ankles, working with some spinal rolls. So either bringing the hands in underneath the knees to the backs of the thighs, or reaching down, taking hold of the big toes, lifting the head, rocking yourself backwards and forwards until we come all the way up to a seated position, focusing as we roll the body down on really curving through the spine. And then lifting through the crown of the head as you roll the body back up. Crossing the ankles in the opposite direction and then working with a few more. And then working your way all the way up into a seated position. Finding a comfortable seat for a moment, pausing with the eyes closed. And just allowing your awareness to settle into the body, to settle into the breath. Observing where you are in space, in time. Noticing the sensations in the body. Connecting in with this moment. Perhaps bringing to mind any intention for this class. Observing the breath as it travels in and out. Aiming to keep the mind still, that thoughts will come and allowing them to go. Keeping our focus anchored on the breath. Knowing that the breath is always here, we can always come back to it at any point, not just through our practice, but at any point in the day. And then gently blinking the eyes open. Let's come onto all fours, working with a couple of rounds of cat-cow. So as we inhale, allowing the belly to drop down towards the floor, sending the tailbone up into the sky, pushing into the hands. Exhaling, pushing the spine away, tucking the tailbone under, looking to the belly button. Inhaling, dropping the belly down, looking forward. Exhaling, pushing the spine away. Inhaling, lifting the tailbone, looking forward, pushing into the hands. And exhaling, pushing the spine away, tucking the tailbone under, again, pushing into the hands, really pushing the spine up into the sky, feeling the shoulder blades spreading. And then releasing, coming back to a neutral position. Tucking the toes under, pushing ourselves back into down dog. So pushing firmly into the hands, creating length through the spine, leaving the knees bent, engaging through the abdominal muscles. So aiming to draw the lower ribs in towards the chest. And then continuing to push into the hands, creating length through the spine. Keeping that engagement through the core, gently pedaling through the feet. So stretching one heel and then the other down towards the floor. Just feeling those sensations through the backs of the legs. And then seeing if we can push both heels down to the floor. And releasing, lifting the heels up, bending the knees, seeing if we can find the natural curves of the spine. So by bending through the knees, this releases the pressure on the backs of the legs, the stretch on the backs of the legs, so that we can find those natural curves in the spine. From here, with bent knees, seeing if we can work to gently straighten the legs as much as you can without losing those curves through the spine. From here, looking forward, let's gently step the legs through. So either stepping all the way up to the hands or walking the feet up to the hands, finding a forward fold here. Softening, and then inhaling to a flat back. So again, with a flat back, aiming to find those natural curves in the spine. Exhaling, softening down. Inhaling, lifting to a flat back, engaging through the core. Exhaling, softening down. And then this time bringing the hands to the hips, engaging through the core. So continuing to draw all of the muscles through the waist in towards the center of the body. Hands on the hips, elbows point up towards the sky. Inhaling, lifting the body up. Releasing the hands, having a shake out, and finding our way into some helicopter swings. So bringing the feet hip width distance apart, hands come out in front of you, and then swinging the arms back behind you. So getting some rotation into the spine here. Taking the arms up towards shoulder height. And then sweeping the arms up into the sky. Working the arms back down towards shoulder height. Continuing to watch the backhand as it travels behind you. Bringing the arms back down to hip height. And then eventually allowing the hands to come to rest by your side. When the hands do come to a still point, stepping the feet together, finding Tadasana, the pose of the mountain. So allowing the eyes to close, pushing firmly down into the feet, feeling the weight evenly distributed from the back to the front of the feet and from the left to the right. So the inner foot to the outer foot, the toes, the ball of the foot to the heels. And then strengthening through your legs. So drawing the kneecaps up, pushing the feet away from each other to firm the outside of the thighs. And then drawing the feet closer together, to activate the inner thigh. Making sure that the pelvis is in a neutral position. So checking in, are we tilting the pelvis forward or back? Making sure that we're in a nice neutral position of the pelvis, and then bringing our awareness into the abdomen. So corseting in the waist, drawing the lower ribs, the hip, the rib points down in towards the spine, and then opening through the top of the chest. Feeling the shoulder blades drawing down the back of the body, and then drawing the crown of the head, the center of the head up into the sky. So feeling strong, feeling stable here. Feeling the feet pushing firmly down into the earth, crown of the head lifting up into the sky. From here, gently blinking the eyes open and making our way into tree pose. So pushing the weight firmly down into the left foot, aiming to keep this length through the body that we've created, and then bending through the right knee. 3 options here. So either bringing the heel of the foot into the ankle, bringing the sole of the foot up to the calf muscle, or aiming to bring the foot up into the thigh. Bringing the hands out to the side, lifting, lengthening through the spine, pushing the foot into the thigh and pushing the thigh into the foot, keeping the core active and engaged. And then with your next inhalation, taking the arms up overhead, seeing if you can grow a little taller. And then bringing the hands together, drawing them down to the heart. Continuing to breathe, continuing to feel that strength, pushing down into the foot, lifting up through the crown of the head. Continuing to open through the knee, through the hip. And then when you're ready, gently releasing. Returning both feet down to the earth, pedaling through the legs. So bending one knee and then the other. And then finding Tadasana once more, pushing the feet down into the floor, creating that length through the spine, activating through the entire length of the body. And then pushing down into the right foot, bending through the left knee and bringing the left foot into whichever position you prefer. Drawing the hands out to the side, continuing to work to open through the hips. Lifting and lengthening through the spine. And then inhaling, taking the arms up overhead. Drawing the hands together. Lengthening. And then bringing the hands down over the heart. Continuing to push the foot down into the floor. Continuing to push the left foot into the thigh, the right thigh into the left foot. And then gently releasing the leg. And once more, pedaling the feet out. From here, let's return to the top of your mat. So stepping up to the front of your mat. Let's inhale, circling the arms up. And then exhaling, circling the arms down and folding forward. Once more, inhaling, finding a flat back. Exhaling, releasing down. And then bringing the hands down to the floor, stepping the left foot back behind you. Keeping the knee off the floor. So being in a high lunge here, leaving the left hand down on the floor. And then let's open through the right hand. So looking up to the top hand, looking up into the sky. And releasing, exhaling. Returning the hands back down to the floor, pushing back into down dog. And then working with the opposite side. So this time the left foot steps forward. Keeping the back leg engaged. Right hand is firmly planted down on the floor, lifting through the left arm and twisting, looking up into the sky. and releasing. Returning back to down dog once more, pedaling through the legs, aiming to keep the neutral curves of the spine. Finding that stretch through the backs of the legs. From here, looking to the hands, let's step the right foot, aiming to bring it to the outside of the right hand. Dropping the knee down to the floor, untucking the toes, and then sinking the hips forward. Breathing here. You might like to experiment with coming down onto the elbows. Continuing to push firmly down into the front foot, knee points straight up to the sky. So aiming not to let the knee splay out to the side. And then returning back up onto the hands. And this time bringing the foot back to the inside of the right hand, tucking the toes, back toes under, lifting the knee off the floor, and then stepping the right foot back to meet the left. Finding down dog once more. And then working with the left leg. So looking to the hands, left foot steps through to the outside of the left hand, dropping the knee down to the floor, untucking the toes, and then either pausing here, or if you would like to, gently coming down onto the elbows. Breathing deeply, continuing to push firmly down into the left foot. And then working our way back up onto the hands, tucking the back toes under, lifting up, bringing the left foot to the inside of the left hand, and then stepping back once more into down dog. Pushing through the hands, lifting the tailbone up into the sky, and then releasing the knees down to the floor, untucking the toes, walking the hands forward. Let's find heart to earth pose. So continuing to lift the tailbone up into the sky, pushing firmly down into the hands, finding a stretch through the shoulders. And then gently walking the hands back and working with one or two more cat-cows before we come into seated. So inhaling, dropping the belly down towards the floor, looking forward. Exhaling, pushing the spine away. Inhaling, looking forward. Exhaling, pushing the spine away. Inhaling, looking forward. And exhaling, pushing into the hands, feeling the shoulder blades spreading away from the spine. And releasing. Crossing the ankles, finding your way into a comfortable seated position. And then let's bring the soles of the feet together. Seeing if we can pull some of the padding out from underneath those sitting bones, drawing the heels of the feet a little closer in towards the pelvis, perhaps interlacing the hands around the toes or taking hold of the ankles, and then gently leaning yourself forward. So continuing to lengthen through the spine here, rather than looking to take the forehead down to the floor, keep the length through the spine, lead with the heart so that we find that stretch through the inner thighs and the hips. Inhaling, exhaling, seeing if you can soften. And then gently inhaling, lifting back up. Interlacing the fingers, wrapping them around the toes if they're not already, and then feathering through the knees. Let's pause with the eyes closed, aiming to lift and lengthen the spine. So lifting out of the pelvis. Again, looking to find those natural curves of the spine. Continuing to let the knees bounce up and down. using the engagement of the core to help you continue to lift through the spine to lengthen the upper body. And then allowing the knees to come to a still point, gently releasing the hands and then crossing the legs, finding a comfortable seated position, preparing for Yoga Mudra. So bringing the hands out over the knees, bringing the forefinger into the pad of the thumb, remaining 3 fingers are outstretched and together. Pausing with the eyes closed. Just drawing the awareness inside. The eyes are our strongest, most active sense. So by closing the eyes, we naturally start to focus our attention inwards. And then inhaling, sweeping the arms back in line with the hips, drawing them up to shoulder height, softening through the wrists and the elbows. And then exhaling, folding the body forward, crossing the wrists over the lower back, bowing the forehead down towards the floor. Pausing here, bowing this first time in respect for self. Acknowledging this time that you have carved out for yourself and what that means to you, to your well-being, your self-care. Bowing in respect for self. Inhaling, lifting the body up, bringing the arms out to shoulder height, softening through the wrists and the elbows. And then exhaling, releasing the hands down in line with the hips, sweeping the arms forward, bringing the backs of the hands to rest over the knees. Pausing with the eyes closed. And then working a second time. So inhaling, sweeping the arms back in line with the hips, drawing them up to shoulder height, softening through the wrists and the elbows. Exhaling, folding the body forward, crossing the wrists over the lower back, bowing the forehead down towards the floor. Bowing this second time in respect for others. Bringing to mind those in your circle of influence, in your sphere of awareness. Perhaps they may not be physically close, but those who you keep close in your mind. Noticing the flow and effect of you carving this time out for yourself and the ways in which that affects others. Bowing in respect for others. Inhaling, lifting the body up, bringing the arms out to shoulder height, softening through the wrists and the elbows. Exhaling, releasing the hands down in line with the hips, sweeping the arms forward, bringing the backs of the hands to rest over the knees. Breathing here. With your next inhalation, sweeping the arms back in line with the hips, drawing them up to shoulder height, softening through the wrists and the elbows. Exhaling, folding the body forward, crossing the wrists over the lower back, bowing the forehead down towards the floor. Bowing this third and final time in respect for all that is. The connection between yourself and others. The awareness or connection within you between your desires and your actions, your thoughts and your speech. And the flow and effect, the ripple effect to the world as a whole. Bowing in respect for all that is. Inhaling, lifting the body up, bringing the arms out to shoulder height, softening through the wrists and the elbows. Exhaling, releasing the hands down in line with the hips, and then sweeping the arms forward, bringing the backs of the hands to rest over the thighs. Releasing the fingers, softening through the elbows, just pausing with the eyes closed for a moment. Becoming aware of the breath, the constant ebb and flow, the constant giving and receiving within the breath. And then gently blinking the eyes open, and then swinging the legs around, working our way up to standing. So tucking the toes under, lifting the tailbone up into the sky, bringing the hands to the hips, elbows point up into the sky, strengthening through the core, strengthening through your legs, inhaling, lifting the body up, and then stepping the feet wide apart. So aiming to bring the feet so that they are approximately underneath, or the ankles rather, are underneath the wrists. And then working with triangle Trikonasana this morning. So gently turning the left foot in slightly, turning the right foot out 90 degrees, looking over the right hand, inhaling, exhaling as we lean over to the right, and then taking the hand down towards the shin, looking up to the sky, taking the top arm up, lifting and lengthening out of the spine. So aiming to grow taller, longer through the spine, inhaling, exhaling. Maybe you can soften a little bit further down your leg, and aiming to continue to lift and lengthen through the top arm. Breathing deeply here. And then turning to look down to the lower arm, engaging through the legs, engaging through the core, inhaling, lifting up, returning the feet back to center, and then preparing to work with the other side. Checking in here before we come to work with the opposite side, making sure that the pelvis is not tilting forward, aiming to just subtly, gently tuck the tailbone under, or draw the tailbone down towards the floor so that we find that neutral pelvis position. Turning the back foot in slightly, so right foot turns in slightly, bringing the left toes out towards the front of your mat, so short end of your mat. Looking out over the left hand, leaning over to the left, inhaling, and then as we exhale, keeping that control through the core, lowering the hand down towards the thigh. We might reach the shin, perhaps we reach down to the ankle, maybe even the floor, and then turning the head, looking up to the top hand. So right hand lifts up into the sky, inhaling, lengthening through the spine, seeing if we can grow a little longer, and exhaling, seeing if we can twist a little further. Aiming not to have too much weight in the lower hand, so really feeling that we are lifting up through the top arm. Breathing here. And then returning the gaze to look down to the lower hand, strengthening through the legs, through the core, inhaling, lifting yourself up, and then returning the feet to center, exhaling as we lower the hands back down, and then bringing the heels and then the toes in until we return back to standing. Pausing with the eyes closed here for a moment, finding Tadasana, feeling that strength, that stability through the body, engaging through the core, lifting up through the pelvic floor, corseting in the waist, drawing the lower rib points towards the spine, opening through the top of the chest, lifting the crown of the head up into the sky. Gently blinking the eyes open. Let's work our way down onto the back of the body, coming to work with the wedge. So rolling yourself all the way down, hugging the knees into the chest, maybe gently rocking from side to side. And then finding center, bringing the hands over the knees, running the hands down the front of the body, bringing the feet flat to the floor as close as you comfortably can to the buttocks. Bringing the hands flat to the floor. And then from here, inhaling, pushing through the feet, lifting the pelvis up into the sky. And then aiming to lift the heels of the feet off the floor, interlacing the fingers underneath the body, and then seeing if we can squeeze the shoulder blades together so that you lift a little higher. From here, bringing the hands to support the lower back or the buttocks. And then if you would like to, bringing the heels of the feet back down towards the floor. Keeping the fronts of the legs engaged here. Supporting you, pushing down into the feet at the same time as we draw the heels back towards the body. Breathing deeply. Continuing to send the knees up into the sky. So making sure that we're not relaxing through the legs. Legs are very active here. Shin bones are pointing straight up into the sky. From here, releasing out, so lifting the heels up off the floor, bringing the hands back down to the floor, heels come back to the floor, and slowly lowering the body down. Rolling one vertebra at a time back and down to the floor. Lifting the heels, bringing the knees into the chest. And then taking the feet up into the sky, engaging through the core. And as best you can, continuing to push the lower back down into the floor as we slowly lower the heels down to the floor. If you need to, then bending through the knees. And then releasing all the way down, turning the palms of the hands to face up towards the sky, allowing the eyes to close, allowing the breath to flow down into the belly. Engaging through the core, working our way up into a seated position. So either bringing the hands over the heart or bringing the hands flat to the floor underneath the lower back, engaging through the core, lifting the head, looking to the toes, and then inhaling, pushing into the hands and lifting to sit up. Pulling the padding out from underneath the sitting bones so that we can tilt the pelvis forward. If you have a blanket handy, you can also sit on a blanket. That will help you as well to bring the pelvis forward. From here, working our way into Paschimottanasana. So lifting through the spine, cupping the hands by the hips, inhaling, circling the arms up overhead, looking up, exhaling, folding forward, bringing the hands somewhere between the knees and the toes. Maybe you can take hold of the big toes. Inhaling from either position, lifting and lengthening through the spine. Exhaling, taking the heart out towards the toes. So finding a stretch here through the backs of the legs rather than folding through the spine. Engage through the core. Use the strength in the legs and the core to help you as you inhale to lift. Exhale to soften. Once more, inhaling, lift. And exhaling, soften. If you would like to, there's the option to bend through the spine, so softening the chest down towards the knees. As you do so, work to lift the elbows out to the sides. That will help you to lengthen a little bit more through the upper spine. And then releasing, inhaling, lifting up, releasing the grip of the legs, lifting yourself all the way up to starting position, and then bending through the knees, balancing with the feet off the floor, so interlacing the fingers, wrapping the fingers around the shins, and pausing with the eyes closed. Blinking the eyes open, and then coming onto the knees, finding our way into the bandhas today. So tucking the toes under, spreading the knees wide apart, And then bringing the hands to rest on the thighs. Again, checking in here, is the pelvis tilted forward, aiming to bring the pelvis into a neutral position. Lifting and lengthening through the spine. And then exhaling any breath from the body. Inhaling deeply down into the belly. Holding with a full breath. And then exhaling through the mouth. Drawing the stomach muscles back up and underneath the rib cage. Engaging through the pelvic floor, tucking the chin into the chest. Creating the action of inhaling with the ribs without letting any breath into the body. When you need to breathe, inhaling, lifting up, exhaling, untucking the toes, folding the body forward. Inhaling, lifting yourself up, working a second time. So releasing any breath from the body. Inhaling deeply down into the belly. Holding with a full breath. Exhaling through the mouth. Pushing all of the breath out of the body. Sucking the stomach muscles back up and underneath the rib cage, engaging through the pelvic floor, tucking the chin into the chest. Creating that action of breathing with the ribs, that you are inhaling without bringing any air into the body. When you need to breathe, inhale, lifting up, exhale, folding forward, releasing the body down, resting the forehead on the hands, allowing the belly, the abdomen to soften here. Allowing the breath to flow as you need it. And then inhaling, lifting up, working a third and final time. So tucking the toes under. Again, checking in with the pelvis, finding that neutral pelvis. Exhaling any breath from the body. And then as you inhale to a count of 7, breathing in deeply. Holding. Exhaling. Creating the locks through the stomach, through the pelvis, and through the chin. When you need to breathe, inhaling, lifting up, and then this time exhaling, releasing yourself all the way down to lie on the front of the body. Turning the head to one side, releasing the arms down by your side, allowing the eyes to close. Observing the breath, observing the body, observing the heart, noticing whether you can feel the heart beating. And then working with the grasshopper. So lengthening through the spine, tucking the chin under, bringing the forehead flat to the floor, interlacing the fingers behind the back, drawing the hands down towards the heels as we squeeze the shoulder blades together. Engaging through the core, and then inhaling, lifting to look forward, lifting through the chest, lifting the legs off the floor, and then lifting the arms up and away from the body. Continuing to engage through the front of the body. Continuing to lift yourself up and away from the floor. Create length through the back of the body at the same time as we lift through the front of the body. Inhaling. Exhaling, softening down, tucking the chin under, bringing the forehead back to the floor, releasing the arms. And then bringing the hands forward, preparing to work with either cobra or sphinx. So making sure that the spine feels long. So you might like to walk the toes away from the body so that you can lengthen the spine out a little further. Checking in with the shoulders and with the hands. So drawing the shoulder blades back and down, that might mean that you need to move the hands back slightly. And then either working with Cobra or Sphinx. So either hands come to the floor on the outside of the shoulders, or we bring the hands one hand's length forward. If you are working with Sphinx, then leaving the forearms down on the floor as you lift the body up. So from either position, starting with the forehead down on the floor, lengthening through the spine, finding that neutral spine, engaging through the core, inhaling, lifting, looking forward, keeping the engagement through the core as we lift through the chest, and then gently pushing into the hands as you lift yourself all the way up. Again, continuing to keep that control, that engagement through the abdominal region, helping to support the spine, keeping a bend through the elbows, and continuing to push the heart forward to lengthen through the lower back. So from either position, whether you are in Cobra or Sphinx, we want to work to push into the hands, drawing the heart forward, lengthening through the spine. And then exhaling, softening down, bringing the belly, the diaphragm, chest, chin tucks under, forehead returns back to the floor. And then turning the palms of the hands to face up towards the sky, turning the head to one side, bringing the heels of the feet up towards the buttocks, and then flopping the feet from one side to the other side. Releasing here through the lower back. And then bringing the feet back to center, releasing them down to the floor, and then extending the right arm up overhead, pushing into the left hand, and rolling yourself over, coming to lie on the back of the body. Lengthening through the spine, preparing to work our way into shoulder stand or a variation. So remembering that our variation of shoulder stand is simply to take the legs up into the sky, engaging through the core and tucking the chin into the chest. If you would like to work with the full variation, drawing the knees in towards the chest, and then releasing the hands down to the floor, taking the feet up into the sky, engaging the core, inhaling, exhaling, taking the feet back behind the head, and then interlacing the fingers, squeezing the shoulder blades together so that you can lift a little higher into position. And then releasing the hands, bringing the hands to support the lower back. Once the lower back is supported, we can then work to take the feet up into the sky. Working to lengthen through the body. Breathing. Feeling a gentle squeeze through the throat in either position. And then slowly releasing out. So lowering the feet back down behind the head, keeping the control through the core as we do. Releasing the hands down to the floor, and then slowly with control, unwinding the spine. Keeping that control as you lower the legs down towards the floor. And then softening gently. Working our way into the fish. So bending through the knees, bringing the feet flat to the floor, and then lifting the pelvis so that we can interlace the thumbs underneath the body. Extending the arms out long underneath you, bringing the pelvis back down and unlocking the thumbs so that we're sitting on flat hands. Lengthening through the legs, pushing the elbows down into the floor as we lift the heart up into the sky, making sure that we do not turn the head from side to side, allowing the head to drape back behind you. Continuing to work to lift the heart up into the sky, pushing down into the elbows. breathing deeply. And then exhaling, softening yourself back down, lengthening through the neck, and then releasing the hands out from underneath you. Turning the head from one side to the other side. And then pausing, bringing the head back to center, taking a moment to notice here how the body feels, to notice what you notice. And then slowly, gently working our way up to a seated position. So coming up in whichever way you choose, turning ourselves over, coming onto all fours so that we can work with the elephant, tucking the toes under, lifting the tailbone up into the sky, looking to the feet, stepping the feet to mat width distance apart. Aiming to draw the heels of the feet down towards the floor, but doing so without compromising those curves of the spine. Allowing the head to drape comfortably between the shoulders, perhaps turning the head from one side to the other side, maybe nodding it up and down, backwards and forwards. And then just allowing the crown of the head to gently be pulled by gravity down towards the floor. And then bringing the heels of the feet up off the floor, stepping the feet back together, coming down to the knees, untucking the toes, sinking the buttocks back to the heels, creating two fists with the hands, and then resting your forehead on your fists. Pausing here, giving the body the opportunity to bring the blood pressure back into balance. And then with your next inhalation, gently lifting the body up and then lying yourself down, coming to lie on the back of the body. Finding a comfortable position for relaxation. So lying yourself all the way down, a couple of options. So you can either bring the legs out long, or if you would prefer, if there is any tightness or discomfort through the lower back, you might like to bend the knees, bringing the feet a little wider than hip width distance apart, and then allowing the knees to gently rest against each other. So from either position, allowing the eyes to close. If you're comfortable to do so, then releasing the arms down to the floor, turning the palms of the hands to face up towards the sky, allowing the fingers to lightly curl. And then gently releasing the shoulder blades back and down, seeing if you can open a little further through the chest, feeling the shoulders softening down into the floor. Observing the rise and fall of the belly. With your next exhalation, seeing if you can take the breath down into the pelvis, into the hips, softening. Releasing through the thighs. Allowing the lower legs to soften. Feeling the shins and the calf muscles releasing. Allowing the ankles and the feet to let go. Drawing the awareness up into the crown of the head. Allowing the scalp to soften. Allowing the forehead to smooth out. Feeling the eyes sinking deeply into their sockets. Softening through the jaw and allowing the tongue to rest gently in your mouth. Just allowing the entire body to rest comfortably on the floor. Giving yourself permission to let go of anything you no longer need, anything that no longer serves you. And at the same time, allowing your body to absorb the benefits of this class today. Just pausing, feeling yourself softening, feeling yourself becoming a little heavier with each exhalation. And then with your next inhalation, breathing down into the belly, wiggling through the fingers and the toes. Taking the arms up overhead, stretching out, lengthening. And then rolling over onto one side, drawing the knees up towards the chest, pausing for a moment. And then slowly working your way up to a seated position. Drawing the hands to the heart, allowing the eyes to close, lengthening through the spine. Inhaling. And then exhaling gently, drawing the head down, bowing the head. Pausing, sending some thanks, some gratitude, first to yourself, and then extending those thoughts out to others. Inhaling, lifting the body up, lifting the head up, lengthening through the spine. And then exhaling, releasing the hands, blinking the eyes open. And thank you for joining me.